Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, had a secret weapon that wasn't in his voice or his music, it was his body. As co-star Hope Lange noted, watching Elvis perform, you couldn't help but notice his left side was more alive. His left leg would jerk and twist in a way that seemed almost dance-like, but with a sultry edge. His mouth, too, had a life of its own, sneering and curling in a way that was hard to ignore. This wasn't just stage act, it was a part of who Elvis was, a blend of natural charisma and carefully honed performance skills. In the early days, Elvis's physical presence was often underestimated. Kay Medford, who worked with him on Broadway, said it was fortunate for Elvis that he wasn't held back by his looks or his voice alone. Instead, it was his sex appeal that really set him apart. Frank Barron, an editor from The Hollywood Reporter, echoed this sentiment, saying that while talent is important, it's Elvis's physical appeal that made all the difference. This wasn't just about looking good, it was about knowing how to use that appeal to captivate audiences. Elvis's journey to stardom began humbly. In 1954, he was just another act in a small club in Memphis. Singer Slim Whitman, who shared the bill with Elvis, recalls an awkward moment where Elvis, thinking he was being booed, fled the stage in embarrassment. But the audience, sensing talent, urged him back on. This incident revealed Elvis's vulnerability, but also his determination. The turning point came when producer Sam Phillips brought together Elvis, Scotty Moore on guitar, and Bill Black on bass to record music that would change the landscape of music forever. This collaboration led to Elvis signing with RCA Records, a move that propelled him from a regional sensation to a national star. But it wasn't just the music that made Elvis a phenomenon, it was how he presented himself. As Skippy Lowe, a cable TV talk host, pointed out, TV was crucial to Elvis's success. While some, like Johnny Ray, struggled to adapt to the new medium, Elvis thrived. His unique blend of country, rhythm and blues, and gospel music was amplified by his on-screen charisma. Carrie Fisher, daughter of the legendary actress Debbie Reynolds, noted that it was Elvis's whole package, his voice, his looks, and his flirty mannerisms that truly captivated audiences. Managerial savvy also played a key role in Elvis's rise. Initially managed by Bob Neal, Elvis later caught the eye of Colonel Tom Parker, a shrewd businessman who saw the potential for big money. Parker's involvement marked a shift in Elvis's career, moving him from a talented young artist to a global superstar. Parker's influence extended beyond just managing Elvis's career. He became a dominant force in Elvis's personal life, a relationship that would last decades. Elvis's early days were not without challenges. Rock Hudson, a fellow actor, remembered how reporters in the South would judge Elvis harshly, seeing him as a country boy with a truck driving past. But Elvis didn't let these judgments define him. He understood that his looks and his music were his assets, and he used them to break through barriers. The music industry itself was initially hesitant about Elvis. Della Reese, another singer of the era, recalled radio stations in the South refusing to play his early records because they sounded too black. Yet despite these obstacles, Elvis's first national chart hit, Baby, Let's Play House, in 1955 marked a significant moment. The title alone was provocative, reflecting the changing times and Elvis's role in shaping them. Even in Las Vegas, where Elvis performed, his reputation was a mixed bag. At the New Frontier Hotel, he was initially billed as Elvis Presley, the atomic-powered singer, a nod to Johnny Ray, who had a similar moniker. However, after an underwhelming performance, the billing was quickly changed. Meanwhile, Johnny Ray, who was having a successful run at the Desert Inn, watched Elvis's rise with a mix of envy and respect. As Elvis's career progressed, he continued to push boundaries both on and off stage. Tom Jones, a fellow performer and friend, noted that Elvis was calculated in his performance, using every move and expression to its full effect. This was evident in his 1956 recording of Heartbreak Hotel, which, despite initial reservations from RCA, became a huge success, topping the charts for nearly 2 months. Even those who weren't fans couldn't deny Elvis's impact. Bing Crosby, a veteran of the music industry, admitted he wasn't Elvis's fan, but he acknowledged the singer's influence. Ed Sullivan, another influential figure in entertainment, was less enthusiastic, though he never outright criticized Elvis. Elvis's journey from a truck-driving kid in Memphis to the king of rock and roll was marked by his unapologetic embrace of his physical presence. As biographer Jerry Hopkins observed, Elvis used his looks and movements to captivate audiences, a skill that was as much a part of his art as his music. This blend of talent and charisma created a legend that continues to resonate today. In the mid-1950s, television was starting to become a big deal in America. It wasn't just a fancy thing in rich homes anymore. Many families had TVs, and stars could make a name for themselves just by being on screen. But not everyone was happy about this new star named Elvis Presley. Some people in the TV world, like Ed Sullivan and Arthur Godfrey, didn't want Elvis to become famous. They thought he might make young people act badly, causing trouble like promiscuity and delinquency. Ed Sullivan even said he would never let Elvis on his show. But Elvis's popularity kept growing, and it became clear that many people loved him anyway. People began to notice Elvis's influence was hard to stop. His fans, mostly girls, would react wildly at his concerts. This scared parents and even some religious leaders. They thought Elvis was a bad influence. One newspaper reviewer called his concerts subsidized sex, meaning they seemed to encourage bad behavior. Music historian Charlene Held noted that some boys were big fans, but it upset their boyfriends a lot. These boyfriends sometimes even tried to confront Elvis after shows. Elvis's agent Frank Rio said his client got defensive about these accusations but believed people in New York wouldn't change him. Elvis's success didn't come without backlash. Some people, including a few women, viewed him as a threat to their relationships. They saw him as arrogant and greedy for their girlfriend's attention. This led to some confrontations. Songwriter Sammy Cahn described how some men would follow Elvis, angry about losing their dates. Despite the controversy, Elvis's music and stage presence captivated many. John Lennon of the Beatles once said Elvis was a whirling dervish of sex, highlighting both the admiration and the discomfort his style caused. Elvis's appearance on Ed Sullivan's show was a big moment. Initially, Sullivan didn't want him, but Elvis eventually got to appear 3 times. The famous third appearance in 1957 is remembered for Elvis being censored from the waist down. Elvis's impact wasn't just musical, it was cultural. Some saw him as a symbol of freedom and rebellion. Reverend Charles Howard Graff from the time described Elvis as a whirling dervish of sex, showing how his image stirred strong feelings. Even religious figures weighed in, with some condemning him as a bad influence and others seeing him as a form of modern-day icon. As Elvis's fame grew, so did the concerns of those around him. His mother, Gladys, was worried about the attention and the dangers it might bring. She feared for Elvis's safety from fans and even considered moving to protect her son. They eventually bought Graceland, a big house, to give Elvis some privacy, but this also meant more attention and trouble. Neighbors even filed a lawsuit claiming the family was a public nuisance, though it was later dismissed. Elvis's rise to fame also brought changes at home. He bought fancy cars and clothes, even getting his mother a pink Cadillac, though she didn't drive much. His success was rapid and massive. In 1956, he had 4 songs at the top of the charts, a record that stood for a long time. This explosive success was partly due to his manager, Tom Parker, who was very savvy about capitalizing on Elvis's image and talent. One of Elvis's early movie roles, Love Me Tender, showed how his style could reinvent classic songs. The movie, originally planned to be called The Reno Brothers, had Elvis playing a character who dies so his friend could marry the love interest. It was a mix of a western and songs, reflecting Elvis's unique blend of music and performance. Through it all, Elvis's impact on music and culture was undeniable. His ability to capture the spirit of the times mixed with his controversial image made him a figure that both captivated and divided America. Despite the critics and concerns, his music and charisma continued to draw people in, marking the beginning of a legacy that would last long after his time. Elvis Presley, known simply as Elvis, began his journey in movies with a unique and memorable performance that left many puzzled and intrigued. Time magazine described his debut as something out of a dream, a mix of a sausage, a Disney goldfish, a corpse, and an energetic dance that suggested more than just music. This description captures the shock and fascination his performance brought to audiences. At first, Elvis kept his natural dark blonde hair. However, as he stepped into the world of movies, he noticed that most leading men had dark hair. He might have copied Tony Curtis, an actor Elvis admired who had black hair. Back then, dark-haired male leads were rare, especially compared to the blonde heroes that became common later. Some thought Elvis dyed his hair black to look more masculine and mature. This idea makes sense because, back then, being seen as tough and grown-up was important for actors. Elvis's style choice was influenced by his desire to fit in with other popular male stars of the time, like Bob Mitchum and Rock Hudson. Critics didn't always see Elvis's singing in a good light. They thought he couldn't sing and compared his performances to suggestive dance moves, more fitting for burlesque shows than serious music. One critic even said he couldn't sing a lick and compared his movements to those of a suggestive dancer from the burlesque scene. Despite these criticisms, Elvis knew he needed to change his image for movie roles. He wanted to be taken seriously and looked up to like other respected actors. So he decided to dye his hair black and wear more eye makeup, which made his skin look even lighter. This choice wasn't just about looks, it was about fitting into a world where dark-haired, rugged men were seen as cool. Elvis's music career took a hit when a Christmas album caused controversy. Some radio stations refused to play his version of White Christmas because it was seen as disrespectful to the holiday's spirit. Even Irving Berlin, the song's writer, asked stations not to play it, saying it wasn't in the true spirit of Christmas. As Elvis's fame grew, so did concerns about his performances. Critics and even the police were worried his shows were too suggestive and could lead to trouble. In one instance, the Los Angeles Vice Squad threatened to arrest him if he didn't tone down his act. So for a show, he played it safe and kept it more family-friendly. Behind the glamour, Elvis faced real challenges. His early band members, Scotty Moore and Bill Black, were crucial to his sound, but were paid very little compared to Elvis. After 2 years, they decided to leave because they weren't getting fair compensation. Elvis was shocked and even scared that he couldn't make it without them. But after some time, they returned, realizing they needed the money, even if it meant less control over their work. Elvis's relationship with his band changed once he became a star. Instead of peers, he had employees who had to follow his lead. This shift made things complicated, especially with Scotty Moore, who stayed on and off until 1969. When Elvis was drafted into the Army, it was a huge shock to him. He feared he would be forgotten by his fans and worried about returning to civilian life. The Army made a big deal out of his haircut, turning it into a media event. While Elvis mourned, his manager, Colonel Parker, used the situation to keep Elvis in the public eye. Life in the Army was tough for Elvis. He missed his mom the most, and while his fellow soldiers teased him, they eventually accepted him. Elvis tried to make friends by buying them things, showing that even in tough times, he valued connections. In the Army, Elvis couldn't pretend to be a celebrity, but he still found ways to be special, like buying uniforms for his fellow soldiers. This shows how even in strict environments, personal charm and generosity can make a difference. Elvis's journey from a small-town boy to a Hollywood star was filled with challenges, controversies, and changes. His story teaches us about the struggles of fame, the importance of friendship, and how one person's dreams can captivate the world, no matter the obstacles.